Hey, it's Ben from Fisher Digital. As I mentioned in my last video, I was planning on pre-ordering the Vision Pro, and I'm happy to announce that on February 2nd, Vision Pro will be delivered to my house. There's no Apple stores nearby me, so I went with the delivery. Hopefully it's delivered earlier in the day rather than later, but knowing my luck, it's probably going to come at like 9 o'clock at night or something. I've not stopped thinking about Vision Pro since I ordered it. I am constantly thinking of questions I have or things that I want to try out when it comes. I've been making a big old list of tests that I want to do and document everything. And I'm trying to be as thorough as I possibly can. So if you've had any questions about Vision Pro, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll see if I can get you an answer. Since it's been on my mind so much, I've done a lot of research about it and I found a few more things that I didn't notice before. And so I'd like to go through the list of the questions I still have and the answers that I did find and hopefully learn something. The big question on everybody's mind is, how heavy is it? How long can you wear it before you want to take it off? Is it going to cause neck pain? Is it going to cause face discomfort? I'm really curious about that. What's the actual battery life going to be? They quote 2 hours for general use and 2.5 hours for video. Is it actually going to end up being that way? Will I ever feel motion sickness while wearing it? I don't usually get motion sick, but wearing the Quest 2, especially playing games where you have to move around, that does actually get to me a little bit. I'm hoping that motion sickness won't be a problem for me because that would be a bummer. And if I do feel motion sickness, what are the causes of it? I'm wondering how annoying it's going to be to stay plugged in, assuming that I can last longer than the battery life. The Quest 2, I've used it while being plugged in, and that has the potential to be even more annoying, I would think, because the port is located on the front of the device and it's just more in the way. The Vision Pro, the cord coming from the device is kind of hidden back here, going to your pocket, and then your pocket is what would be tethered. So I'm hoping that that's kind of a little more out of the way and that it won't be that big of a deal. One of the things I've been wondering lately that I haven't heard anybody ask or talk about is, what's the power settings like? When you put it on, is it already turned on, or do you have to, I'm assuming you have to turn it on first, right? And then how fast does it boot up? Like when you put it on, will it be black screened? How quickly does it turn on? What's the standby or sleep mode like? Do you have to manually sleep it and wake it every time, or is it motion activated? I don't know. I'm assuming whatever it is, it's going to be really intuitive and easy. Everything I've seen is that it handles tracking amazingly. And so I'm curious if there's any downfalls to that. If your eyes dart around really fast, will it ever fall behind? Or can you tell there's a lag? If you shake your head, will it ever get thrown off? I'm also curious for the limitations on the gesture input. How far behind your head can the camera see your hands before it gets lost? And is there any notification that says that it can't see your hands anymore? What's the behavior going to be when you put it on and it's dark in your room? Will it tell you that it needs more light and not work? Will it just show a black display and still let you interact with digital elements? What are the limitations while being in a dark room and using Vision Pro? What will happen if I'm working in my office with Vision Pro and decide to walk across the house? What's going to happen to those apps that I have open? Will they automatically close if I move far away enough? I'm wondering what all those details are and how it handles moving around in space freely, between rooms especially. I also had questions about what the equivalent of the Quest's Guardian is in Vision Pro, and I actually found those answers. So their website says, if a person moves more than about a meter, the system automatically makes all displayed content translucent to help them navigate their surroundings. So your open windows will kind of fade and you can see through them a little bit so that if there's something behind it, you won't run into it. When a fully immersive experience starts, the system defines an invisible zone that extends 1.5 meters from the initial position of the wearer's head. If their head moves outside of that zone, the experience automatically stops and pass-through returns to help people avoid colliding with objects in their physical surroundings. There is a big difference there. In Quest, you set up the boundaries beforehand so you're able to walk confidently around your area without running into anything. That makes it sound like in Vision Pro, you won't be able to walk around in a 3D model house, for example. You'll be limited to 1.5 meters around you, which is still, you can take a few steps, but it's not like you're able to walk fully around a house, which would require you to be using VR in a bigger space anyway. And the last part on the website says the system can stop an immersive experience when people get too close to a physical object or when they move too quickly. So if there's objects that are closer than 1.5 meters and you get too close to it, Vision Pro will leave the experience and you'll be able to see your surroundings again. We kind of talked about how heavy is it going to feel on your head, but in addition to that, how is the light seal going to feel, or the headband cupping the back of your head? How is that all going to feel? Will it be uncomfortable at all? And when it's on your face, how long before you start feeling any heat, if ever? Because it's a computer on your face, and computers generate heat. So it seems like it's a matter of time before you start feeling something, right? I hope not, but that's something that I'm wanting to find out. And as far as sight, can you actually see any of the pixels, or is it like Retina display for Vision Pro, where it's so small that it looks lifelike? What's the color accuracy like? For me, and what I use a computer for, I don't need 100% accurate color, but I know that's something that some people are concerned about. And how well does it occlude hands, and does it occlude your body? In the demos of people typing on the keyboard, it looks like it works really well. And what happens if I bring my hand and bring it real close to the headset? How is that image breakdown gonna look? On the Quest, it does not look very good at all, and it happens pretty close. And even if you move quickly, it breaks down really easily. I'm curious how that's going to look. For sound, you have the audio pods that apparently have super high fidelity sound and will interact with the elements in your space to make it sound even more realistic. And I'm excited to try that out. We know the storage options are 256, 512 gigabytes, or 1 terabyte options. But what's the real life scenario? How much space is it actually going to take up? We know spatial videos are going to be on there, 3D content will be on there, 3D models will be on there. All those are relatively larger files, but how much of it will also be on the cloud and streamed live? How much of that is going to actually need to be stored on the device? How much of this is going to actually replace work from a MacBook? Like, as a programmer, Xcode takes a lot of space. It seems like it's going to be more like an iPad or iPhone with storage, where 256 gigabytes gets you a long way, but for a computer, that's not nearly enough. So I took kind of a safer route. I went 512 gigabytes. So I went in the middle just to be conservative with setting myself up for the future. Does it remember any of your environments, or is it always mapping your surroundings on the fly 100% of the time? Then I have questions about features like persona. What is the setup for that going to include? We know that you hold the headset up to your face and it scans you, but do you have to rescan every time you want to change it? Or can you store multiple of them? Or can you actually store just the clothes or hairdo and swap it out with that? None of that's been featured, so I doubt that any of that's possible. It's probably a one and done. I'd be surprised if they didn't have options like that in the future, but that's something that I'm going to look for when I get my Vision Pro. Supposedly the EyeSight, where you see the eyes on the outside of the headset, are just a rendering of your persona. If somebody else puts on my headset, will it show my eyes on them? Or do they, when they enter guest mode, have to scan their face to be able to wear it temporarily? Or am I wrong, and it is cameras that looks at your eyes live? That's what I initially understood it to be, but then I'm learning that it's actually the persona. So how does that all work? I've kind of put together a little list of the different kinds of immersion. So there's the content and the display, and each of those could be 2D or 3D, and each of those combinations can be viewed in or out of an environment. There's a 2D video on a 2D window. That's your basic, what you would think of just watching TV. And you could do that in a physical space or in a virtual space. Then there's a 3D video on a 2D window. So that's your spatial videos and your spatial photos and your 3D movies. Then there's 2D content on a 3D window, like your panoramas or the immersive videos that they've announced. Again, those can be done inside or outside of a virtual environment. Then you have your 3D portal, where it's a 2D window that extends into a different world. It's a portal. It opens up and content can come through, like the Encounter Dinosaurs demo that they show. And then of course there's just full-on VR where all of your content is 3D and everything. How will Vision Pro fit into the ecosystem? We know you've got the sidecar functionality where you can look at your MacBook and the screen will virtually pop up. Based on what we know about sidecar, I'm assuming that is limited to one screen. As I mentioned before, I want multiple screens, so that's a huge thing for me. I hope they add support for more if it truly is only one screen, which it looks like it is. But what are the limitations with that? I know with my MacBook to iPad, a lot of times the connection isn't very good and the mouse will freeze quite often, so I choose to plug it in. That issue goes away, but then I have to plug it in and it's not as convenient. So will that be the same with Vision Pro? Will it have the same issue? A similar feature is universal control, where you can use a single mouse and keyboard and go between different computers. Will that also work with Vision Pro? Can I use my Mac in front of me and still be wearing my Vision Pro and kind of go between the Mac and Vision Pro? Is that a possibility? If I have an iMac and a MacBook, can I look at one or the other? Could I have both of them come up at the same time? Does Sidecar even work with Intel Macs? Does it only work with MacBooks? All these details I don't have the answer to, and I'm really excited to test it out. And then there's the AirPods issue. I've seen that you have to have the new AirPods to use it. Does that mean that you can't use older AirPods like you can with your computer? Or is it just that it's not as good as the new ones because it doesn't have lossless and smaller latency? I'll be really bummed out if I can't use my AirPods with Vision Pro. And I don't want to shell out another $250 to upgrade my AirPods. How many windows or apps can be opened simultaneously? Is there even a limit? Or is it just depending on how intensive the programs that you're running are? I saw a thing called travel mode, and there's the videos of people using it in an airplane. Is it limited to an airplane, or can I use it in my car as a passenger? I'm thinking it is limited to an airplane because the airplane has a lot less kind of motion to it, where a car you're constantly turning. There's just a little more forces that might mess with the calibration. I'm not planning on being able to use it in the car as a passenger, but I think that would be awesome if I can. Can it even be really taken outside? The Quest warns you about not taking it outside because it could damage the lenses on it. I haven't seen anything about that in Vision Pro. Is it because the cameras are higher quality with better coating, so that it doesn't have the same issues? Is that something you'd even want to take outside? If it rained on it, there's vents on the top. Would water get in that and ruin it? I know it's not waterproof, but what's the limitations of using it outdoors? And I brought this up a little bit earlier, but guest mode, how does that work? Can you save a guest profile so they don't have to set it up every time? If so, how many guest profiles could you save on it? How easy is it to set up for a guest? What content do they have access to? I know it blocks the sensitive content like personal data and whatever. How uncomfortable will it be to use somebody else's light seal? Like I bought it for me. When my wife wants to try it, will it be so uncomfortable for her that she'll want to get her own light seal? When I'm demoing it to my friends and family, will they not have as good of an experience because the light seal is just uncomfortable for them? Or is it just minorly inconvenient? How does that work with sharing it with other people, especially your significant other, somebody that you live with that will be using it more often than somebody else? And so my last questions are involving spatial videos and recording it and using the headset as a recording device. When I record spatial videos, will it see my digital content that I have open? Is that kind of how you screen capture what you're seeing? Or is that a separate process? Or is that even not possible? We know you can AirPlay it to an iPhone or a MacBook or an iPad or whatever. You can AirPlay so people can see what you're seeing live, but is that a different process than stream recording in a higher quality? It's limited to 720p when you AirPlay it. When you do AirPlay it, will it show video feed of pass-through or will it be blacked out because of privacy and whatnot? Also, what's the field of view when you spatial record? What's the file size going to be like? What's the dimensions or the aspect ratio going to be? Can you change all of that? Is it all set in stone? What are all those details? And lastly, while I've been thinking about Vision Pro so much and trying to learn everything I can about it, I've come to appreciate some of the little things that I'm excited to appreciate in real life. Just the little animations. When you tap on something and a window pops up, it will move the main content back a little bit. So you're looking in the same spot, but there's depth to it. And there's just animations like that that look so nice. Everything's very intentional in the design, as typical with Apple. Having occlusion makes a huge difference in immersion. Digital elements even interact with your physical space, casting shadows on the ground. You have spatial audio that interacts with your environment to further immerse you even more. In the environments that they provide, there's soundscapes to help immerse you into it even more. The fact that it doesn't even come with a controller is incredible. It's using your hands and your eyes and your voice. That's it. Granted, you can hook up controllers, we know that, but the fact that out of the box you do not need a controller is just so nice. So that was a mouthful. A lot of questions that I have. There's a lot of things that I've learned, and I'm so excited to finally try this out in person. And every question that I've asked in this video, I'm planning on finding out the answer. And if you have any more questions for me, I'll try to find out those answers too. And with that being said, I'm only a few days away from actually being able to experience this in real life and finally learning for myself what it's all about. And I am looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.